In this video we're going to discuss slope, first by talking about the definition, and then by talking about the consequences of that definition. So first the definition. The slope of a line between 2 points x1, y1 and x2, y2 is defined as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is equal to delta y over delta x. Now what does delta mean? Delta, which is a Greek letter, and that's an uppercase delta, usually means change, often a small increase. And in this case, you could read it as the change in y over the change in x. And it also should be clear that it doesn't matter which point we choose first. The slope will remain the same because it's describing the line and not the 2 points. You can see this mathematically by the fact that y2 minus y1 times negative 1 is going to be equal to y1 minus y2, and the same thing with the denominator. So we're multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by negative 1, and so they both cancel. And so those two fractions have the same value. Here's an example. Find the slope of the line that passes through 0, 5 and 6, negative 3. So here's our formula for the slope, and we just insert values into the formula. So we have y2, y1, x2, and x1. We simplify, we get negative 8 over 6, which is equal to negative 4 over 3. So the slope of the line that passes through those 2 points is negative 4 over 3. Now let's discuss what this actually means. The slope measures the steepness of a line. It goes uphill, looking from left to right, if the slope is positive, and it goes downhill if the slope is negative. And a zero slope, as you see, is a completely flat slope. The bigger the absolute value of the slope, the steeper the line is going to be, either up or down. So if it's a negative with a high absolute value, let's say like negative 5 or negative 10, negative 100, it's going to be pretty steep. But if it's flat, then that line is going to be have a slope that's closer to 0. And if it's a completely vertical line, then it's going to have an undefined slope. So these are all the possibilities for the slope. And you should be able to, if not give the exact number, you should be able to say, is it positive or negative? And is it relatively big or relatively small? The first two graphs over there with those perfectly diagonal lines, if it's a perfect diagonal, it's either a slope of 1 if it's positive, or negative 1 if it's negative and downward sloping. A second interpretation